Hello and welcome again. I am Brother Filipe Chou,
And I am Petra Chou.
and we're here on our final session of the history of the church in Mongolia. We're grateful that you've been with us. Uh, our first session, we talked about the first missionaries and their arrival in Mongolia and their experiences.
And then the second day, we talk about the Mongolian mission and the church educational system was established in Mongolia.
During our third session, we've talked about the gathering places and the translation of the Mongolian scriptures.
Today, we are going to talk about the first stake in Mongolia and then the Deseret International Charity.
And we will also talk about some of the impact of the first stake, the first patriarch, and then visits from Elder Holland and Elder Bettner, and this beautiful this place of Mongolia and the saints in Mongolia, the rising generation, or what Elder Holland called them, children of destiny.
Okay, in January 2007, President Donald L. Hallstrom of the Asia Area Presidency visited Mongolia and dedicated 2 chapels.
And also during this time, we have President Alan Anderson and his wife Jill, who arrived in July of 2007 to take over the mission as the new mission president and companion.
Yeah.
We also have several visitors during this time.
One of them is in 2007, President Tinky of the Presidency of the 70 and his wife Joanne visited Mongolia, followed by Keith B. Macmillan of the presiding bishop of the church and his wife Carolyn in October 2007.
And so during this time, there's a lot of new buildings that are coming up. It's always exciting when you have a member of the presiding bishopric visit, because they often come to visit looking for property, places where the church might put a building, and in some cases, they also look for sites, for possible temple sites to propose for the first presidency.
And also, Elder Russell M. Nelson and his wife visited in 2009.
Right, you can see here a picture of them, Elder and Sister Nelson. He was then an apostle, visiting with members in the Gur district. This picture shows them together with a sister, and then in the background is one of their Gurs.
And then I want to read something about what Sister Nelson said. How impressed she was with the Mongolian saints.
And this comes from the record of Sister Jill Anderson.
Yeah, quoted, "We went to visit 2 members' families who lived in Gur districts. Sister Nelson was particularly impressed with the life of these families. She took lots of photos. One of the women said she had lived in her Gur all her life, 57 years. It had been her parents' Gur before her. While we were visiting her family of 3, the door kept opening to admit another family member or a friend. They wanted to share this incredible experience with others. By the time we left, the small room was vocaling with people. Elder Nelson gave a prayer at each home."
Yeah, what a blessing it is, right? You see our prophet, right, as a member of the Quorum of the 12 at this time, visiting the saints, not just in UB, but also going out to the Gur districts and visiting each home and providing a prayer and a blessing on the home. And you can see here then a prophet who is ministering one by one. And what a wonderful example he is to us.
And then the members at that time were so grateful for this ministering effort by Elder Nelson at that time. And beside that, also when the apostle came, also was the missionary was also very excited. They have special mission conference. They were taught by the apostle and then the general authorities. And then when this is a special mission conference, in February 2009, an Elder and Sister Nelson was invited to come, and Elder Sister Hallstrom also, and then Sister Ellen, President Allen and Sister Anderson were in the picture as well to hold this mission conference for the missionaries.
You can see in this picture then, President and Elder and Sister Nelson Center, and then to their right is President Sister Hallstrom from the Asia Area Presidency. and then to their left is then President Sister Anderson, who is the
To the right.
mission president, right?
Just to the right.
And then we also see here several of the missionary couples up front. And then also you can see a lot of missionaries during this period. Many are from Mongolia. So there was a big surge of young men, young women that wanted to serve missions. And so it was a great blessing from the church. There was a point in the church history in Mongolia where we were sending out missionaries from Mongolia outside of outside of their country of Mongolia, because we just had too many missionaries, more than the complement for the Ulaanbaatar Mongolia mission.
You can imagine, we talk about starting in 1992, the six couple missionaries started to come in Mongolia, doing some teaching and then other work in the university to start preaching the gospel. And then later on in 93, about six young elders started a mission. Right now you can see in 2009, more than a little bit more than 10 years, and the missionary has increased tenfold, and then you can see how many missionaries are faithfully serving in Mongolia.
Right. Now, this picture you see here, now this is February 2009. Elder and Sister Nelson with President Sister Hallstrom, and in between them is President Agro. He was at this time serving as the district president in Mongolia. And so February, fast forward just a few months, and President Hallstrom will return in 2009 to Mongolia to call and call President Agro as the first stake president in Mongolia, and organize the first stake in Mongolia.
Yes, and then also the first patriarch was also called Bet Baya, and then he was the first patriarch in that stake. And then also the first bishop was ordained in Mongolia and converted 6 branches into the wards. And the membership has reached 9,896 members in 2010.
So for some of our friends who may not be familiar, you know that we have wards and branches. So a branch of the church is a congregation that's slightly smaller than a ward. Similarly, we have stakes and districts. So a district is something a little smaller than a stake. Usually a district will have branches. There are no wards, there are no bishops, and there's no stake president. But there is a district president which functions similar to a stake president with a few differences. One of the differences is that a district is presided by the mission president. So the mission president is will preside at the district conference, for example, right? Now, with a stake, once a stake is organized, then that is no longer under a mission, and so there are priesthood keys that are given to stake presidents. And so President Agro, who was serving as the district president, is now called to be the stake president. And I just want to share with you some of their experiences. They were actually in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, when they received the call. They were there because of his work assignment. Brother Agro was seminary and institute coordinator in Mongolia, but he was in Malaysia for a meeting. And so his wife, Sister Ariun, shares the following. We received the call and we were asked to visit with President Hallstrom, but we were not there. We were in Malaysia. So after flying from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Singapore, our flight was delayed for 1 day in Singapore. So we didn't make it back to Mongolia as we had planned. We changed our flights and went from Singapore to Beijing to Mongolia. And they arrived that Saturday of district conference. We met with President Hallstrom in Mongolia on Saturday. My husband was the last person interviewed before the district conference on Sunday. President Hallstrom interviewed with my husband alone on Saturday. Then at night, we had a couple's interview to extend the calling for my husband to serve as a stake president. This was, of course, a surprise for them, right? Brother Agro had received his first interview with President Hallstrom and then went home, didn't think about it. So he and his wife, Ariuna, decided to go shopping. And so they were out getting some groceries. They were shopping. She mentions, I was shopping with my daughter when we got another call to come in for a couples interview. So this time, President Hofstrom wanted to visit with Brother Ogro, but asked him to bring his wife, Ariuna, in. And she says, I was in jeans and wanted to go home and change, but I was told to come like that. I was told, quote, it is good you're in jeans, which means you weren't prepared for or expecting this calling, close quotes, right? And so I just love this story because it shows how humble they were. She felt, oh, I can't go visit with a member of the area presidency in my jeans. I should go home and, get ready before we meet. But President Hofstrom was just so kind to them and just said, no, just come in your jeans. You'll be fine. And it just shows that you weren't expecting to be called back. So that's a great story, right?
Yeah, this is picture on the left is Brother Ogro and his family and his 2 kids. And this family has been amazing, helped so many of the things. And because of their effort, we were able to go to Mongolia to do some research about the church history in Mongolia. And then also they have a rising generation. Her daughter was just called, got her mission call to serve a mission right now.
That's right. And on the picture of the right, you can see the stake presidency with their families there. The first counselor, second counselor, they're all very young with young families. And that's very typical in Mongolia, right? Now, with a new stake presidency, the other blessing that comes to the saints in Mongolia is that they also get a stake patriarch. And President Ogro interviewed Brother Batbayer to become the first patriarch of the church in Mongolia, right? Before, when we had a district, often then they need to travel and go somewhere to get their patriarchal blessing. I serve as stake president in Hawaii, and often I get calls from members that live in a district somewhere in Asia Pacific area. They're coming to Hawaii because a son, a daughter is coming to attend school or they're graduating. And so they're on the island for 3 or 4, 5, 7 days. And so they get a special permit recommend from their district and their mission president. And then they will come, and then in our stake patriarch then will give them a blessing. But now with a stake in Mongolia and with a stake patriarch, then they can receive their patriarchal blessings.
And Brother Babaya and his wife too, they were baptized in 1998 in Ulaanbaatar. And then his wife is a famous opera singer in Mongolia.
And we'll tell you a little more about her story in a second. But about the first patriarch, let me just share with you a little bit about their experience as a patriarch.
Yes, quoted, my husband was the first patriarch when he was called in 2009 by President Ogro after the first stake was organized in 2009. Elder Carl B. Pratt, a counselor in the area presidencies, assigned President Ogro to ordain and set apart my husband as a patriarch, which was done in the Seminary Institute office in the basement of the BZ building. When he got the calling, I worried if he knew enough about patriarchal blessing. He said in response, quoted, God will take care of it. He would interview members coming in for their patriarchal blessing, some done at our home while I cooked for them. He had 2 or 3 interviews before giving a blessing. And he did a lot of praying too. Several members have shared with me their feelings of receiving their patriarchal blessing from my husband. He told me he had given more than 300 patriarchal blessings to members. Sister Oyuna was his secretary, and they had an office at the church to give patriarchal blessing. Later, as his health declined, he performed those blessings at home.
Yeah, what a blessing was for many of the saints in Mongolia to learn of their lineage, to receive their patriarchal blessing, and to learn about the mission that the Lord has for them. And we had the opportunity to visit in their home and to visit with her husband and her. And it was so interesting to hear their stories. And it was amazing for us to see their humility, their love for the gospel, and their love for God's children in Mongolia.
And then it's very important to collect this church history from the living members of the church, like one of the pioneers from Mongolia. And Brother Baya definitely was one of the pioneer in Mongolia. Everyone respect him. And then we were grateful that at that time when we visited him, he was in his sick bed. And we didn't know, but we have a great time chatting with his wife, talking about the experience. But for the mercy of the Lord, before he passed away, we were able to visit him. And we visited him on that day, and 3 days after that, he passed away.
Yeah, we had just visited their home. 3 days later, after we got back, we received an email message from President Agro to let us know that Brother Batbayer had just passed away. And so in the church, we encourage everybody to write their histories, to write their journals, because some of the history is disappearing faster than we can collect them. And so we just hope that the members of the church will continue to write in their journals and help record their history. The other wonderful thing that Sister Buted asked us to do was to also take pictures of the patriarch's home. So we took pictures inside and out and several pictures. She said while we were visiting with her, I want to make sure that the home of the patriarch is saved and recorded and saved in the archives of the church. So that was something that we felt that we could do for her, a little thing to help her. And so we have taken several pictures, and those can be found now in the archives of the church, the home of the first patriarch of the church in Mongolia.
Yes.
We also had the opportunity to visit with other patriarchs, right? There are now 2 other patriarchs, and something that's incredible for me. We often talk about the lost tribes of Israel. Now, those of you who have studied the Old Testament, you'll remember that there are 12 tribes of Israel, 2 in the south and 10 in the north.
Yes, and most of the member, we know that we have the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh.
Right, and those are they have a special role, right, in helping with the gathering of Israel. And but in regards to the other 10 tribes, we call them the 10 lost tribes of Israel, because after the Syria attacked, and they were just scattered, as far as we know, to the land of the north. But they're no longer lost. We can report that after visiting with those patriarchs in Mongolia, we have learned that in Mongolia, all 12 tribes of Israel have been identified through their patriarchal blessings. Those patriarchs has given several blessings. Certainly there were some that are Ephraim and Manasseh, but also many are from the other 10 tribes of Israel.
Yes. There's a wonderful blessing that we were, the lost tribe has been identified, and then some of them were in Mongolia as well. And then we also want to talk a little bit more about the patriarch's wife. As we mentioned earlier, she is a famous opera singer. So she also helped to put together the new hymn book
Well, the new hymn book came out in 2009, right? Again, it's not the same as the ones in English where we have a lot of hymns. There's only a few hymns in there, but it was more than what they previously had. And so Sister Buted was called to help organize a choir festival. And in 2010, this choir traveled and visited all the branches and introduced members of the church to the new hymn book. The other thing that came during that time was the new handbook of instructions that was made available in 2010 in Mongolian. And that helped the leaders, the local leaders and organizations to understand how the church functions. But we want to take a few minutes to talk about this choir festival, right? And some of the blessings. But we will discuss that in a little bit.
Okay, the other thing that was for the humanitarian effort in Mongolia. So there's different effort that reliefs that they have been provided by the member. And in 2010, 2000, because it's a severe winter, they provide some effort to relieve the people in need. And in 2003, because of the flooding, they also helped in a disaster effort to help with the flooding. And 2010, because it was just the drought, and then they was able to give some of the effort of this humanitarian effort as well.
Yeah, so those are some of the larger humanitarian efforts that where the church provided aid to the people of Mongolia. But throughout, there's been several humanitarian projects. The church established the Deseret International Charities, or DIC, in Mongolia, and this was a great effort. Many were called to serve humanitarian missions in Mongolia, and they had several different types of projects.
Yes, they have English project, employment resource center. They gave out wheelchairs. They have water project. They have vision care and some baby care as well.
Mm-hmm. And so here is an account of some of the humanitarian projects that were done in 2003.
And the account was provided by Glenn and Marilyn Goodrich. And then it quoted, English teaching as foreign language, supervised by Elder and Sister Red Mall. 700 students taught winter, spring, 1,200 students in the summer, and 2,500 in the fall. Social services program. Sister Fletcher and Hinckley help with the family counseling, orphanages, women's prison, boy prison, police ID center, street children's refugee center, etc. Dental training program. Elder and Sister Ginnis taught higher cosmetic dental techniques to faculties. English skill and training program. And container shipments, 6 food containers from the humanitarian center in Salt Lake City arrived with clothing, food, medical supplies, equipment for orphanages, hospital, clinics, and prisons. Clean water, help with a water line for the hot water to an orphanage in Durham, and 2 wells drilled for 2 schools. Wheelchair program, 250 wheelchairs received and distributed.
And so that was just in 2003, right? The church will, of course, continue and do additional work. Other projects the church is involved with included 6 million tugrits as a Mongolia currency, furnished to help with new girls, and 14.4 million tugrits to help with Darkham Orphanage. And so clothing, shoes, boots, medical supplies, equipment, as well as 1,000 toys that were given to orphanages, primary children. The DIC reported many supplies distributed to various orphanages, schools, organizations, and so forth, right? And so there's a quite extensive humanitarian work and effort that's done by the church in Mongolia. This, of course, included, we mentioned, vision screening. In 2005, for example, a vision screening team came from America and screened over 3,000 people, fitting many with used glasses that were donated for the project. And so here you can see also in New Darkham, they supply powdered milk for children, as well as potatoes, plants, seeds for planting their gardens, and so forth, right? This picture that you see here is an interview that's being conducted. The media came and interviewed our missionaries that were over the Deseret International Charities, or DIC.
Yes, and then the DIC organized an English conference for 300 staff and teachers from the government, secondary school, institute, and university in May 2017.
Also, you will see on the picture to the right, the yellow vest, or the helping hand vest. The Relief Society here organizing an activity where the sisters help to sew and prepare newborn kids.
Yes. And also, the BYU Hawaii also have great contact with the saints in Mongolia, and they provide some humanitarian effort to the people in Mongolia.
Yeah, this is a great effort led by Dr. Peter Chen. He is a PhD in instructional design, and one of his projects that he worked with his students is to put some of that medical training on DVD ROMs, on video on DVD ROMs, so that they could take that to Mongolia and train the medical staff. There are many newborn babies or those that were born prematurely, babies that would pass away, but providing some neonatal resuscitation training through these videos in these DVD ROMs was a great project that Dr. Peter Chen was able to lead. And you can see here on the left, Dr. Peter Chen is in the front center with other medical staff in Mongolia, where they were receiving that training.
And then the picture on the right, you can see in 2005, at that time, the VOA Hawaii president, Eric Shumway, was able to present the medical training DVD, the DVD ROM to His Excellency Nambo Young of Mongolia.
Yeah, and so the church was recognizing Mongolia for their efforts there through those at BYU Hawaii. And what a wonderful blessing. Because of that, many children many newborn that would have otherwise died have been able to receive the proper medical treatment and help to save many lives as a result.
And then we also talk about some public affairs, and there is some change of the number of missionaries. There's a surge and increase before 2009. But also it came with some challenges. There's some visa challenges and restriction. And then the public affairs, one of the main efforts is to secure the visa for the missionaries who come.
And so the church has been working very, very hard to make sure that we can overcome some of those visa challenges. And it's up and down, right? But there is also incredible blessings as a result. When there are some restrictions on some of the visas, we also see an increase of local Mongolian missionaries that apply to go and serve a mission. And so the public affairs office of the church works very hard to help secure those visas to allow our missionaries to be able to serve in Mongolia.
Mm-hmm. And we also want to talk a bit about the rising generation at that time. So as we mentioned before, like there were a lot of missionaries from Mongolia they were able to serve. And then there's a first group of new missionaries left at that time in February 2011 for the first time go to Manila Missionary Training Center.
And there they were able, of course, to be trained and be able to receive instruction and to be able to prepare themselves for their full-time mission.
And then more general authority came to visit Mongolia as well. In April 2011, the Asia area president, President Perkins, and then President Nielsen and
Brother Nielsen, and then Brother Richard Turley, who were church historians, were able to come visit Mongolia to hold meetings regarding church history and to encourage the members to keep their personal records and write their journals.
We are grateful for these faithful members of the church and keeping these personal journals and personal records that we were able to post many of these stories from to present to you.
And so we want to talk about Elder Holland and Elder Bettner's visit and talk about this rising generation.
Okay, Elder Holland visited Mongolia in May 2011. He met with the government official and the service center missionaries, employees, and then he has a held missionary meeting with the Children of Destiny.
Yeah, that's what Elder Holland called them, right? At this missionary meeting, he told these many the young members of the church that they are children of destiny. The Lord had a great work for them to do.
Yes. And then he also have training for the local leader and special stick conferences, highlighting tithing and sacrament meeting reference.
And so here you can see a picture of Elder Holland here visiting one of the important cultural centers here in Mongolia. Elder Holland is visiting the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia in Ulaanbaatar in May of 2011. And so you see here with him also Elder Carl B. Pratt, who is the second counselor in the Asia Area Presidency. You also see the director of the Department of Consular of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia. and others there, right? Including the stake president, President Agro.
Okay, there's a picture of Elder Holland, and then with other employees, and then the church leader in Mongolia, inside the GERD.
And so, what a wonderful thing for him to be there. And I love what he teaches them here. This is from one of the records that we have. This is Elder Holland. He says, "There are 1,000 things I could talk to you about, but I'm going to go back to the basics. Something that we call in our missionary approach the doctrine of Christ. For your own sake and for the church's sake, missionaries must understand who they are and what the church is if they're to reach their potential and save the human family. The answer to every problem in life, whatever the question, is the atonement of Jesus Christ. The doctrine of Christ, the gospel of Christ. If you believe that, you will change your history. You will change Mongolia's history, and you will change the world history." And so Elder Holland was able to teach both missionaries as well as the members of the church. And then he also gave them apostolic blessing. As he was teaching also about the importance of tithing and the importance of the sacrament meeting, he also had a Q&A or a question and answer period. He said in one of the priesthood trainings, Elder Holland taught about those things. He said, first, tithing. There are many questions about it. And one brother asked, do we pay net or gross? Which is correct? Elder Holland's response, what blessings do you want to have? That is up to you. Do you want gross or net blessings? And I thought that was a great response. Secondly, he said, brethren, you are the leaders of the church in Mongolia, and there's much to do. But it is important. Please keep your sacrament meetings filled with the Spirit and make it special for the members of the church. And then as he talked about to the young people, this is what he said. To come here and see the church in Mongolia, born in a day in a sense, 10,000 strong, I was just unprepared for this. Elder Holland continues, I had just come from a priesthood leadership conference with 120 men or so. All of them have to be, by definition, new to the church. They are first generation because that's as long as we've been here. But we've got a stake. We have 2 district presidents. We have full presidencies and full councils, bishops, and branch presidents. The church has been born in a day in Mongolia. And then he pronounces a blessing on them. And he reminds them that they are children of destiny, that they have a destiny to fulfill, to bless all the people in Mongolia. And so today we also want to talk a little bit about what some of these children of destiny are doing.
Yes. One of the, this is a B1 band was organized by some returned missionary in Mongolia. And then they mostly sing songs in Mongolian. And then they do create especially, they call it MIFY, the MEFY, Mongolian Expressly for Youth. And then they have some videos that talk about, the belief and faith and in a form of singing.
Right. They've created dozens and dozens of videos, music videos that introduce people to Christ, to the church, to church music. Sometimes they've done some pop music, also contemporary music. But they use that as a platform on social media through YouTube to be able to share the gospel. And they've dozens and dozens of videos that they've posted on YouTube with thousands and thousands of views, which has been a blessing for the church because it's helped to help promote the church and share in a social media platform.
And then the rising generation, they are so amazing. They know how to navigate this social media platform so well to preach the gospel. And Mifi is one of those product of the genius idea how to preach the gospel on the social media, so they can preach beyond Mongolia and any part of the world that would like to know the gospel. They can find them on YouTube. So.
Yeah, Mongolia has also had their first hand cart track. In 2012, there was a state track, and then in 2013, the following year, they had a countrywide track. So here's some pictures of the hand cart track. Many of these young adults were able to come and help and have the youth, the young men and young women, participate in the hand cart track.
Yes.
Look, on one experiences that we want to share from them. This is comes from Elder Hunt. It says, Sister Hunt and I were traveling with the Ulaanbaatar West Stake President to northern Mongolia to do a PEF, or Perpetuation Fund Fireside. When we told President Ogro that it would be a great experience for the youth in his stake if they could do a handcart track, we proceeded to tell him all about handcart tracks and how thousands of youth participated in tracks in America. He asked many questions and then turned around and enthusiastically shouted, "Our stake will do a track this summer." And so a lot of work, a lot of preparation, but the church news reported that that year, 96 youth and 26 adult leaders grabbed hold of handcarts and trekked across an open landscape in Mongolia. Elder Sister Hunt reported the track was full of fun, singing, friendships, helping others, and a constant feeling of love and cooperation. The beautiful Mongolia countryside added to the success of the track. And so many youth report having their faith strengthened and becoming more converted as a result of track. And it was so successful in that stake that they decided the following year to have an all Mongolia track. So they included the districts and the other units throughout Mongolia, singing "Come, Come, Follow Me" in the plains of Mongolia.
Yes, that's an amazing view when you can hear them singing the song in the open field or pulling handcart. As a member has grown so much, and then it has been about 20 years has passed. So in 2013, and they celebrate their 20th year since the dedication of Mongolia. About 300 members gather at this site, Sam Hill, in Mongolia, in UB. And at that time, Sister Brock and the wife of Elder Brock came with Elder and Sister Dai for the reunion, or like any celebrations. And then they have mission reunion. They also have some cultural event, and then they have a large choir to sing hymns.
And so they had a great 20th anniversary in 2013. 5 years later, they would celebrate the 25th anniversary. And this year, 2023, they're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the dedication of Mongolia for the preaching of the gospel. And one of the great things about them is that they love to sing. And
as we mentioned before, Sister Batu, and she is a famous opera singer and actress.
Yeah, she is a national treasure in Mongolia, right? She sang in many operas for the nation. And Mongolia, many of the Mongolian people know her because she's a famous opera singer and also an actress. Now, if you recall, Sister Boted is the wife of the first patriarch, state patriarch in Mongolia.
And then she was introduced to church by a vocal student and then was baptized in 1998. And then she also organized special Christmas choir concert and in 2008. One of her
and then she sang, of course, she fulfilled a dream that she had, right?
Yeah, she one of the dream that she has, she wanted to sing with the Tabernacle Choir on the Temple Square. So in 2013, she was able to sing with them, and she was so excited and happy about that.
That was such a great experience for her, right? Because a dream come true, to be able to travel to Salt Lake, to be able to attend the rehearsal of the Tabernacle Choir, to be able to sing with them, right? And so she helped to organize a Christmas choir, right? And a Christmas tour. And with another sister, they worked together to be able to take a traveling choir, if you will, that travel through all the branches to sing in Mongolia.
You can see the picture on the left is the choir that they have a road show about 2015 or 2016, and then all these single adults were able to travel around Mongolia to sing for the
And
members.
then from that experience, then the President Agro received that inspiration, right? He thought as he was one day sitting at home and watching, he had this stroke of inspiration that he wanted to have a combined choir in Mongolia participate in the second season of the nationally televised Mongolia's Got Talent. Many of these kids are institute students. There were a couple seminary students. Many of them had other obligations, right? But they all sacrificed time and spent time together to prepare for and to participate in Mongolia's Got Talent.
Yes. And then they were really good. They make it to the quarterfinals and then also
And the semifinals. Right?
and the semifinals. Yes. And then you can see the picture on the right. They make it to the Mongolian Got Talent for the quarterfinals. Those are the participating members, for the group at that time.
Right. So this picture on the right shows their participation during the quarterfinals, and this next picture here is them singing during the semifinals. And you can watch their show on YouTube.
And then
their performance.
Yes, you can. They're amazing singer, and then you can see how the rising generation work how they preach the gospel. They came out, out of their comfort zone, and they were able to sing in a social platform. And then because of the Mongolian Got Talent, and then a lot of people in Mongolia knew about the church because of them.
Yeah, so I'll share with you a little bit of the story here. President Agro was unsure how to proceed, right? He was interested but not sure what to do. So in 2016, his brother-in-law, Toksbayar Samandaring, who was not a member of our faith, called and said, I was watching Mongolia's Got Talent and had a strong impression that your church choir should participate. President Agro then discussed the idea with the choir director, who was Unenjaro Purve, and the choir members were excited about the possibility. The choir became known as Zion or Sion, S-I-O-N, an acronym corresponding to the Mongolia words for spirit, faith, mind, and unity. So Sister Uninjargal, who was the choir director, you see her picture here in the center, said this was a one-year project to help people learn about the church. Another member of the choir said to her, when we were asked to sing in Mongolia's Got Talent, I was very excited because it was a big TV show. We wanted to use this opportunity to improve the perception of the church in Mongolia. She explained it was a big time and financial sacrifice, but I saw this as a wonderful opportunity for the church. And so there were great sacrifices that were made. One of the experiences that they had was a late night practice, and they had tapings and recordings and so forth, right? But one time they were preparing for the semifinal, and on the day of the performance, the choir woke up to a 4 a.m. temperature of minus 29 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 34 degrees Celsius, right? And they said, this is Sister Nomurga Enkovic said, the semifinal round took place during the coldest day of the winter, and many members of our group caught a cold. But they got better as we prayed for them. People throughout Mongolia viewed the show and texted their votes in. Adebot Nangan, who was the president of the Ulaanbaatar Mongolia East, said, when our choir performed, the judges and the audiences were cheering. And they go on to share many of the other stories. There was an experience where many of them were supposed to be part of and help with a youth conference on the other side of Ulaanbaatar. And then the TV show Mongolia's Got Talent contacted them and said no, they had to be there for a taping the next day or they would be canceled and dropped. And so they woke up and went really early for a taping on one side, and then got on the bus and drove several hours to the other side to make sure that they were there for youth conference. What a great blessing and sacrifice of these young people. Many of them we've known because they've come to BYU Hawaii. Some of them have got married. A great number of them are returned missionaries. And this group that attended Mongolia's Got Talent were a great blessing for the church to help the people of Mongolia to learn more about our church. They went to the semifinals. It's as far as they went, but because of their performance there, they were later invited for the nationally televised Christmas program for Mongolia, and were able to perform there and to be able to share a little bit of the Spirit of Christ, a little more about our church in the Christmas, the nationally televised Christmas.
Yeah. And then there's also, they have church, they have different activity. You know, the wrestling is one of the famous sport in Mongolia. And then you can see they have first wrestling champion in Mongolia in 2015.
Yeah, so this was the wrestling championship for the stake, a wonderful stake activity there, which highlights some of their one of their most important sports in Mongolia. Obviously, there's others like archery, horseback riding, and so forth.
Yes. On May 29, 2016, second stake is formed. UB is stake.
And so you can see here a picture of the new stake presidency. President Adebold previously served as a counselor in the stake presidency, and now with the split and the division and creation.
And then you can see brother President Bo. He was a missionary, mission president driver, if you remember. So he was in this presidency as well.
And the picture on the right, you see Elder Sam Wong and Elder Toronto, who were the visiting authorities that came to organize the stake. And then President Adebold and his family, they're pictured.
Okay. And then also continue to grow with the membership, and then also is continue to grow with the humanitarian effort. You can see it on the left side is a Helping Hands assisted in the annual marathon in Mongolian National Garden Park in September 2017.
Yeah, they provided food, water, rest stops to help with the marathon, this national marathon.
Okay. And then the next one, the first UB West Stake presidency was released, and the new presidency was called on May 13, 2018.
And President Segi then becomes the second stake president for the UB West stake after President Agro is released. Now, President Segi then will be he will also later be hired to come teach at BYU Hawaii, and will be one of the first Mongolian to be a faculty member at BYU Hawaii.
Yes. Another picture on the right is the church's 25th anniversary celebration, including they are doing the National Day of Tree Planting in 2018.
So the church planted many, many trees, and that was something that was organized by the Public Affairs Office of the church.
Okay. And also, Elder David A. Bettner visited Mongolia in 2018. You can see he and his wife on the left, Susan, and Elder Bettner, and they visited in May 2018. And then also on the right side, you can see there was some traditional clothing and the instrument as well to welcome the visit.
And during this visit, Elder Bettner re-emphasized the message that Elder Holland had just a few years earlier. So here comes from the church news of the church. In 2011, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, spoke to a gathering of missionaries in Mongolia that included several native-born elders and sisters. He called them, quote, children of destiny, close quote, envisioning the role that they will play building the gospel in their homeland. At a May 19, 2018 meeting for returned missionaries and their spouses in the capital city of Ulaanbaatar, Elder Bettner was with some of those same young people and young women. They're claiming their destiny as the church in Mongolia continues to grow, not fast, but steady. Okay. And Elder Bettner, in speaking there, he continues, many of those returned missionaries now had children of their own, and the cycle continues. It's an indication of increasing maturity. Elder Holland said that the church continues to grow. And what a blessing it is, right? To have an apostle of the Lord come to tour the mission, to visit with missionaries, visit with returned missionaries and the members of the church. And as he traveled throughout, he continues to see the hand of God. Elder Bettner said, the greatest beneficiary in a question-answer session is not the people posing questions, but the person listening to the question. And there is a happy paradox. Elder Bettner's vision throughout Asia, which included a stop in Mongolia, in it, Elder Bettner said he feels optimistic for the Asian countries now writing their maiden chapter of church history. There is a Kirtland today, but it's not just in Ohio. It's in Cambodia, in Mongolia, in India. And in Kirtland-like fashion, the measuring strength of the members in each nation is quality, not quantity. And so Elder Bettner reminded the saints that just like the early saints in the U.S. have gone through their various periods of church history, from Kirtland to Nauvoo to Salt Lake, the same things are happening in the maiden voyage or the journey of the church in Mongolia.
And also at that time, the boundary has changed to put Mongolia into the Asian North area.
So previously, Mongolia was part of the Asia area, which went from Mongolia down to Indonesia, and then from Taiwan all the way out to India. And then during this time, in 2019, boundaries were changed, and Mongolia was placed in the Asia North area, which includes now Mongolia, but also includes Japan, Korea, and Guam and Micronesia.
Okay. And also, the church have donated 4,000 sanitary kits and 10,000 masks to Mongolian Ministry of Health in March 2020 to help with the COVID-19 effort.
Okay, so this the COVID pandemic, of course, has affected people in many countries, including Mongolia. And the church, through its effort, tried to support the Ministry of Health. And you can see here, picture them visiting and providing both masks and sanitary kits. The youth got together and put those packages together. We see here members of the area, of the Asia North area presidency also working with them. And so the churches continue to grow. We see here a map of several of the buildings and units that are throughout Mongolia. And this, of course, it's already outdated, right? Because the churches continue to grow. And the members in Mongolia continue to pray for the day when they will have a temple in Mongolia. And when Elder Bettner visited, there are many questions regarding the temple, and his response was that continue to prepare, be temple worthy, and prepare for the day when a temple may come to Mongolia. So many of our references come from our book, Voice of the Saints in Mongolia, but we wanted to add a little extra. Okay, so just a little bonus feature here that we've added since writing our book. Just this year, January 2023, we have the U.S. Ambassador to Mongolia visit BYU Hawaii, where we were able to present him with a copy of this history, the Voice of the Saints in Mongolia, to help him see and learn a little bit. While in Mongolia this last summer, I've also bumped into the U.S. Ambassador to Mongolia, and he was there. He had some family that was visiting and so forth. And so he had told us that he would read and learn more about the history of the Latter-day Saints and their efforts in Mongolia.
So when you're in Mongolia, you can definitely ride a camel and hold a eagle, right? Or hawks and stuff like that.
Now, the other important thing that as the story continues, we have now the first brother from Mongolia to serve as a mission president. So in the picture on the top left here, from left to right, you have me on the left, and then right after me, that's President Namgar, who is the first Mongolian to serve as a mission president for the Ulaanbaatar Mongolia mission. You have next to him in the center of that picture, President Adalbold, who's the stake president, and then to the right of that picture, then you have President Sister Kawe. President Kawe is the BYU Hawaii president. During this trip in July of 2023, he was also interviewed by MNC, which is the Mongolia News Channel, and it's broadcast throughout all of Mongolia. So that President Kawe was able to explain what are some of the things that we do to provide education and to training for many individuals from Mongolia. And actually, the anchor who was interviewing President Kawe was so impressed and so surprised and didn't realize and couldn't understand why the church does so much to provide education to help the people of Mongolia. And President Kawe was able to explain that. But what a wonderful thing. Very lastly, I would just mention that also in 2023, we have the first full stake center that was now open to allow for church meetings and activities. This building was finished last year, but because of some challenges with the government, the opening was delayed for about a year.
And then the member was so excited to play basketball inside the building. There's an indoor basketball court in there.
That's right. This is the first building of the church in Mongolia to have an indoor basketball court. And so, what a blessing. And the story continues.
Yes. We are grateful that we were able to collect some history of Mongolia and to learn about the story, to learn about the faith, and to learn about the love for the Savior.
Yes, and we just bear witness that the hand of God is in Mongolia and is touching the lives of the many people, many wonderful people in Mongolia. And the story continues. We pray that the Lord will continue to bless the saints in Mongolia and the people of Mongolia, that their hearts will be open to receive the restored gospel and to help build the kingdom of God there on the other side of the world. And we share great love for the saints in Mongolia. And we're also grateful for the Lord and his wonderful blessings upon them. We bear witness that God lives and that Jesus is the Christ and that his hand is on this work and he's mindful of his children throughout the world, including his children in Mongolia. And we share that in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.